All right, in example number 3, we're going to look at how we evaluate square roots. All right, so remember, square roots are these numbers that we have that are underneath the radical sign. And so this right here is my radical sign. And then we have what's inside the radical sign, which is the radicand. And then we have what's called a perfect square. The perfect square is when a square root results in a whole number. All right, and so what do I mean by that? I could have like the square root of 16. Well, because 4 times 4 is equal to 16, the square root of 16 is equal to 4. We could have the negative square root of 25, and because 5 times 5 is 25, I'd have 5, and then I would have the negative put back on there. Those are both considered perfect squares. All right, so let's start out by evaluating the expression. Remember, the square root, we're looking for something times something, and these are all going to be perfect squares here. So what times what is equal to 400? And we know that 20 times 20 is equal to 400, or 20 squared is equal to 400, and so the square root of 400 is equal to 20. Now I have the negative square root of 16, and again, remember, with the order of operations, it says that we have to take the square root of 16 first, and then we're going to put that minus or the negative sign back on it. So the square root of 16, well, because 4 times 4, or 4 squared is 16, the square root of 16 is 4, and then I'm going to place that minus sign right back on here. For number 3, we have the plus or minus the square root of 81. And so I'm going to take a look here. The square root of 81 is 9, and then I'll just put this plus or minus back on the outside. All right, number 4. Now let's talk back about the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Remember, the first step in the order of operations is to do what's in the parentheses. And notice there is not a parentheses here, but if you ever have anything that's inside of either a square root or maybe it's the absolute value, it's like there's a parentheses there. So before we can do anything, we have to do this part right in here. So I have to take 12 plus 13, and that's going to give me then 25. And now once I've simplified that, I can take the square root, and the square root of 25 is equal to 5. All right, let's just take a minute here. I'm going to please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The order of operations. So first of all, I don't have any parentheses, but I do have what would be considered like an exponent. So we have to start there. So, and I also want to point out that whenever you have a number right next to the radical sign, that it means that you are multiplying. So let's go ahead, and we're going to have 3 plus 4, and then I'm just going to multiply. Then I'm going to put the multiplication with the parentheses. Now, the square root of 9 is 3. All right, so there we are in the order of operations. Then remember, it's multiply and divide, add and subtract. So we have to start here then. So I'm going to have 3 plus, what's 4 times 3 is 12, and now I can add them together, now 15. In this next example, we're going to be telling which 2 consecutive integers a square root would be between. Now to do that, what we like to do is to make a number line that represents all of these square roots. It makes it very helpful for you to do that. So if I were to then talk about the square roots, I would have the square root of 1 is 1, because the 1 times 1 is equal to 1. All right, so because 2 times 2 is 4, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9, because 3 times 3 is equal to 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. And then I'd extend it going on the other side. I'd have the negative square root of 1, I'd have negative square root of 4, negative square root of 9, and so forth. Now that's going to take a long time, so I'm just going to, let's just remove that. I already have it here for you. So we use a number line like this in order to help us find these two consecutive integers that the square root could be between. All right, so tell which two consecutive integers the square root is between. And now this is something we're not supposed to be using calculators on. We can use our calculators on almost everything, but this is a non-calculator standard. So it says we need to find then where the square root of 77 is between which two of these. So let's go ahead and locate where the square root of 77 is. The square root of 77 would be between the square root of 64 and the square root of 81. And so if we were asked to say which two consecutive integers it's between, because the square root of 64 is 8 and because the square root of 81 is 9, the two consecutive integers are 8 and 9. All right, so let's locate the square root of 52. Now the square root of 52 is between the square root of 49 and 64, so we've got the square root of 52 right here. So because it's between the square root of 49 and the square root of 64, it is between 7 and 8. Now let's take a look at the negative square root of 10. So negative square root of 10 we have over here between negative 9 and negative square root of 16. So we have the negative square root of 10. And so it's between negative 3 and negative 4. The square root of 2 is between 1 and 4. So we've got the square root of 2 right here. And so it is between 1 and 2. All right, and our last one here, we have the negative square root of 15, which is also between, it's right over here, negative square root of 15. And so that one is also between negative 3 and negative 4.